Hello, today our lesson is on the 8 limit laws. We start with our first limit law in purple, which is the constant function. It is determined by finding the left hand and right hand limits of a number of function k. It ends up as limit of f of x as x approaches a number equals k. For example, we have limit of 6 as x approaches 2 equals 6. Our next law is the identity function in light green. It is read limit x as x approaches c equals c. C is defined as a number. Our example is limit of x as x approaches 5 equals 5. Our next limit law in the turquoise is the sum rule for limits. It is read limit of f of x plus g of x as x approaches c can also be written as limit of f of x as x approaches c plus the limit of g of x as x approaches c. And here our example is the limit of x plus 2 as x approaches 2, which can also be written as limit of x as x approaches 2 plus the limit of 2 as x approaches 2, and we use our identity in constant functions, and we get 2 plus 2 equals 4. Next, we have our difference rule in the orange, which is read limit f of x minus g of x as x approaches a number can also be written as limit of f of x as x approaches a number minus limit of g of x as x approaches a number. Our example is the limit of x minus 5 as x approaches 1, and it is written as limit of x as x approaches 1 minus the limit of 5 as x approaches 1. And again, we use our identity and our constant functions, and we get 1 minus 5, which equals negative 4. Next, we have our constant multiple rule in our black, which reads limit k f of x as x approaches a number can also be written as k times the limit of f of x as x approaches a number. Our example is the limit of 2x as x approaches 5, and then we change it to 2 times the limit of x as x approaches 5. And again, we use our identity and constant functions, and we get 2 times 5 equals 10. Next, we have our product rule in blue. It is read limit of f of x times g of x as x approaches a number can also be written as limit of f of x as x approaches a number times limit of g of x as x approaches a number. And here we have our example, which is the limit of x times cosine x as x approaches pi over 2. It can be written as limit of x as x approaches pi over 2 times the limit of cosine x as x approaches pi over 2. And here we use our constant and our identity functions, and we get pi over 2 times cosine of pi over 2, which turns out to be pi over 2 times 0, which equals 0. Next, we have our quotient rule in the pink, which is written as limit of f of x over g of x as x approaches c can also be written as the limit of f of x as x approaches c over the limit of g of x as x approaches c. And our example is the limit of x over 2 as x approaches 1. It can be written as the limit of x as x approaches 1 over the limit of 2 as x approaches 1. And then we use our identity and constant functions again, and we get 1 over 2, or 1/2. And last but not least, we have our power rule in red. It can be written as limit of f of x to the r over s power as x approaches a number. It can also be written as the entire limit of f of x as x approaches a number to the r over s power. In this case, s cannot equal 0, and r over s must be in simplest form. And here we have our example. The limit of x cubed, the square root of x cubed as x approaches 8 equals the entire limit of x as x approaches 8 to the 3/2 power. Next, we use our identity function and have 8 to the 3/2 power. And then we simplify 8 into 2 cubed. So 2 cubed to the 3/2 power. And then we multiply our exponents and we get 2 to the 9/2 power. Thank you, and that is our lesson on limit laws today.